All right, our final presenter of the day is Marissa Harrison from Thanksgiving Point Butterfly Biosphere. Her presentation is Scorpion Behavior Assessments, Taking the Sting Out of Behavioral Interpretation. Marissa Harrison is from Florida, where she grew up exploring the tiny critters of her backyard. She began her career as an animal keeper, working with invertebrates, reptiles, and amphibians, and moved to Utah to help establish the entomology department at Thanksgiving Point's Butterfly Biosphere. She misses the humidity, but loves the alpine meadows and seasons instead of year-round hot. And the animal she most wants to see, velvet ants. Let's give it up for Marissa Harrison.
Guys, my nose is dying with the lack of humidity. I'm just always dehydrated. I really miss it. So good afternoon, I'm Marissa, and I'm presenting on scorpion behavior assessments that we've been trialing at the Butterfly Biosphere. We want to better understand the impacts of animal ambassador programs on their welfare. And I've uploaded the paper for this, pretty lengthy, on the app we've all been using, Wova, don't know how to pronounce it. But if you want to read more about this, I have that available. As a quick overview of our scorpion care, we do exhibit scorpions. There's usually 1 to 3 on exhibit at any given moment. One of those exhibits is a black light exhibit, and the scorpions rotate through that, so they'll spend a week in that exhibit and then go back to our lab. When they are not on exhibit, our scorpions are on a show rotation schedule, so they'll be sent up to our education team for daily programming, and you can see that presentation area on the top right. So in the entomology lab, we keep the conditions at 78 degrees Fahrenheit, about 55% humidity, and our scorpions are set up in a variety of plastic storage bins, and they're set up based on their humidity needs. So we can see an example of a low humidity scorpion, or I'll call them our desert scorpions. So 100% sand, a variety of enclosure furniture and hides, and they have access to a water dish daily. And then we also have our higher humidity setup, which is cocoa fiber, repti-chip, and sphagnum moss, a variety of enclosure furniture. And we keep 1/3 of that substrate wet at all times so they can choose which side of the enclosure they want to rest on. So the assessment was started following a Halloween event this past fall. We used 5 different scorpions for a 4-hour event. They were in an area called Phosphor Hollow, which was a dark alley with glow-in-the-dark decor, and it was lit only by black lights. We utilized one desert hairy scorpion who was in an acrylic show box on top of that cart for the duration of the event. And then we rotated 4 tropical scorpions. They took turns spending an hour in that front pocket of the cart. We just didn't have the cart lit for the event. And then our keepers also were rotating between a couple other stations for this event. So they didn't see all 4 of the tropical scorpions during the experience. So we saw the desert hairy, stressed like this at one point. I had prodded him with a paintbrush to be more visible, and he held this posture for 15 minutes. And some of the keepers reported some of the tropical scorpions being stressed, and others thought they were really comfortable and happy exploring. Conflicting interpretations of behavior, and we also weren't sure if these behaviors were abnormal for these individuals. So we created a behavior assessment to try to establish a baseline understanding of each scorpion's behavior tendencies so that for future use we could more accurately interpret their reactions to those programs. So for these assessments, we had 20 scorpions from 10 species. We always collected the assessments during our team meetings, which take place at 12 p.m., which is like the middle of the night for these nocturnal scorpions. And we conducted them from November through April of this year. And the assessments were designed to evaluate each scorpion's responses to typical stimuli that they experience when they're interacting with our keepers during daily servicing or transferring to temporary enclosures. So it was 5 steps. We were observing their responses to enclosure movement, lid removal, and hides removal, touching their tail, touching their claws, the transfer process, and then their recovery and readiness to hunt within 60 seconds of completing that transfer. So So let's look at some scorpion behavior that we were interpreting during the assessments. These two highlighted scorpions are demonstrating stress behaviors. They are standing very tall above the substrate. Their tails are extended upwards. Their claws are up, they're extended, and they're open. And stressed scorpions might be holding their position or running away. These three scorpions are demonstrating non-stress behaviors. You can see their bodies are low, they're parallel to the ground even when they're walking, like in that top picture. Their tails are relaxed in that curl. And for the one that's walking, you can see the base of that tail still also pretty parallel to the ground. Their claws are low to the ground, and they might be open or closed, but they're not up and extended out. And if they're walking, it's a pretty consistent pace. So this is an example of what we'd call relaxed exploration. The scorpion is walking pretty low to the ground. The body is pretty parallel, including the base of that tail. The gait is consistent with periodic pauses that are pretty typical for scorpions. So they might be hunting, looking for a hide, just going for a walk, but they don't appear stressed to us. So during the first stage of the assessment, 11 out of 20 scorpions were unresponsive. So many of them were clearly relaxed, like the pictures that I showed earlier, maybe still groggy. Several of them may have been frozen and alert, so just waiting for something to happen. A few of them changed posture, and then they also remained frozen and alert, waiting for what was going to happen. Two of them immediately jumped up and began exploring with their claws open, which we interpreted as hunting behavior. And then a few engaged in relaxed exploration, possibly hunting or evaluating the change in their environment. So in this first video, we're going to see our scorpion flinch when I take the hide. He flinched a few times as I was pulling furniture out of the enclosure. So this is the frozen and alert, waiting for something to happen. And then he's going to engage in some relaxed exploration. So this seems unstressed to me, like he's probably comfortable with our daily activities in his enclosure. This scorpion has come to the front of his hide. You can see a little tiny, maybe you can't see it, but there's a claw at the front of his hide. He's preparing to hunt now that we're being active in his enclosure. But when we took the hide, he retreated very quickly to the back of where it was. This is Cusco, and he's a very reactive scorpion. These very quick movements are typical of him. During the next step of tail touching, most of them displayed no response. For some of them, they were definitely frozen and alert, like they were like a slight flinch, but holding their ground. And then others we think were really just sleepy or very unconcerned with contact with them. A few of them turned to face the stimulus, and they would face it repeatedly with repeated contact, and we find this to be pretty typical of our tropical scorpions. And then a few of them moved away from the stimulus. So this scorpion, I think, is asleep right now. He's letting us just manipulate his tail from side to side, but then he's going to startle forward. So we switched from very obviously relaxed position, and then you can see that his claws came forward and he's in a more alert space. This scorpion is actually pushing back against the paintbrush when we touch her. Then she's going to demonstrate Thank you. Then she's going to move away from the stimulus and also demonstrate turning to face it a little bit. So she's moving at a pretty relaxed pace, I would say. She's not stressed with this interaction. Now, notice her slow movements. We're going to look at Cusco again. And he's going to move at the speed of light. So again, he is just a very reactive scorpion. He moves very quickly, but maybe this is a stress response because of the extreme speed. I don't know. The final scorpion we're going to see demonstrates typical tiny desert scorpion behavior. It makes me laugh every time, but it's clearly terrified. It is stressed by interactions with us. So during the next step of claw touching, 8 out of 20 grabbed the paintbrush. They were either hunting or feeling defensive. Most of them were hunting, and we could tell that based on some other body language, which I'll point out in a minute. And then, and that pinching was pretty typical of our tropical scorpions. They have thicker, more powerful claws, so that might be more common for behavior for them in the wild. 12 out of 20 scorpions did not grab the paintbrush. Some of them moved away from the touch, and quite a few held their position but just retracted their claws. So they didn't want to be touched, but they weren't maybe especially alarmed. And we find that to be typical of our desert scorpions. So we can see that here. I'm touching the claws. He's just kind of moving them out of the way. And because I continue to interact with him, I think he's switching into hunting mode. This might be similar to when we're tongue feeding a cricket. Like, why else would I be messing with his claws repeatedly if not to try to give him a food item? So he also seems pretty unstressed to me. Then here's Cusco. So he's actually hunting right now. So you can see he pulled the paintbrush to his chelicera, and then he realizes that it's not food. So his body language is changing. So here's the pinching and hunting. And then when he realizes it's not food, he's going to start batting it away. So this is more defensive here. But in neither case, he's not actually striking. So, again, I'm wondering, is he, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, but is he quick to stress, or is he just a quick scorpion? Who knows? Let's see, during the next step, the transfer process, we rated them on ease of transfer, so high, medium, or low. If they were highly easy to transfer, 13 out of 20 were highly easy to transfer. They just didn't want to be touched, so they ran away from the touch into the container we wanted them to go into. Some of them were less terrified, and so would just take a couple steps away from contact and a couple more, so we are able to guide them. 15 out of 20 are medium ease of transfer, so there's initial resistance, there might be some striking or holding their ground against pressure, and then there's an eventual retreat from the touch. And then 2 out of 20 were very low ease of transfer. I bet you can guess which scorpion was one of those. So these scorpions are extremely defensive. There's continuous resistance, a lot of striking, or maybe just holding their ground, and we eventually just have to gently push them into a container. So this is a very easy transfer and also very minimal touching involved. So at this point, we would be moving this little transfer container maybe into a show box or the blacklight exhibit. And then we want to give them time to be able to come out on their own. He needed just one tiny little tap. So that was great. Here's Cusco. He really does not want to be manipulated. He's going to begin striking at this point. And I didn't make this easy. I was trying to be aware of where the camera was, so the bottom of this container wasn't flush with the ground. But yeah, he doesn't like us interacting with him at all. And we'll just watch him fight a little bit more to come out. But we love him. So this was a scorpion. We just kind of, he stands out because he's got, such a different, fast speed compared to everyone else. So this was one scorpion we felt we knew. So during the final step, we were observing how quickly they seemed to relax post-transfer, and we also tempted them to hunt. We were thinking that they're probably well adjusted to interactions with us if they're willing to risk hunting so quickly. So this step occurs within 60 seconds of releasing them back into the enclosure. So 7 out of 20 hunted, and many of those were already exploring their enclosure in a relaxed manner. 13 out of 20 did not hunt. Most of them were just disinterested, and there was little response to us since we weren't making contact with them. And then 4 demonstrated continued stress. So Cusco was still defensive, 2 had hidden beneath burrows and didn't react, and then 1 moved away from the stimulus. So here's a scorpion that's already ready to begin hunting. She is chasing whatever is making contact with that substrate. This scorpion is uninterested in whatever this is. It's pretty relaxed posture, so I don't think they're like frozen and scared. And he's actually just gonna start walking past it. So I think he probably knows it's still us and is over our shenanigans. And then this scorpion is still stressed. They don't want to interact with whatever it is. He probably just wants to hide and go home. So ultimately, we think that our scorpions are pretty well adapted to their life with us. They feed consistently, they utilize a variety of areas in their enclosures, they recover pretty quickly from interactions with keepers during transfers and servicing. And we've been keeping a lot more records on their behaviors. So since doing the behavior assessment, we take a lot more notes about their transfers, and we discovered some of these behavior assessments are true to their personality. They're just generally easy to move around because they're scared of us. Some of them, for example, the desert hairy scorpion that had displayed stress, he's just quick to stress and hold that position. So we have learned about that, but his behavior assessment, he was very chill and easy to transfer, so it didn't match our typical records about him. And then other scorpions sometimes have a bad day. So we have lots of records about a smooth transfer, and then one day they're striking the whole time we're transferring them. So that might be something we explore, is what happened to them that day to put them in a bad mood. I wanted to briefly share some side benefits of doing these assessments as a whole team during a team meeting. They were a great opportunity for professional development for our keepers. It was a little bit deeper than just knowing what the daily care is. And we all actually observed a wider range of behaviors than we had previously perceived. We were able to discuss a lot of different interpretations of behavior. And several team members shared increased comfort with working with our scorpions after engaging in these, because we did have everyone take turns being the poker of the scorpions. We improved our practices, especially in record keeping. It's basically we record a lot more things, and we record them in greater detail. And then basically, after paying so much attention to scorpions, it has overflowed to the rest of the collection. So we just make a lot more observations of normal and abnormal behaviors. So for example, we know which scorpions and tarantulas tend to sit on top of their hides, because they're on top of their hides and not hiding. So that stands out to us, and we make a record of it. And then finally, observing animals together is a great morale booster. It's really fun to look at cute animals doing cute things, especially in the post-lunch slump. And it fosters opportunities for building strong relationships among the keeper team and between keepers and managers. So October's approaching. We're gonna be doing events on each Friday night. They'll just be 2 hours, but we feel better prepared to create a safe environment for the scorpions, and also better prepared to evaluate how it impacts them. We would like to tailor this tool and use it with some of our other long-lived individual animals. And we're also in a place where we want to explore implementing annual welfare assessments. So I'm kind of exploring the AZA website, but I'd like to hear about any tools your facilities are using as well. So I want to thank my wonderful team for their daily commitment to excellence in animal care, their curiosity about our animals, and their willingness to increase their record-keeping workload to better understand our scorpions. Thanks so much.